The year is 476 AD, and there is no battle, no siege, no walls breaking, no desperate last stand. Inside a Roman palace, beneath ceilings built to outlast centuries, a boy emperor is quietly dismissed. His name is Romulus, named after the founder of Rome itself. But he is no founder. He is barely a ruler, too young, too powerless, too irrelevant to even be executed. Instead, he is exiled, removed not as a threat, but as an inconvenience. And in his place, a barbarian king sits on the throne of Rome. Odoacer does not carry the elegance of emperors past. His armor is rough, his presence unrefined, his expression almost indifferent. Around him, the marble grandeur of Rome remains untouched. Columns still stand, statues still watch in silence. But something essential has shifted. The empire is still there, physically intact, yet hollow in a way no army could have achieved. The greatest empire in human history does not fall with fire or fury. It ends with a signature. There was a time when Rome did not seem like something that could end. At its height, it stretched across 3 continents, binding together lands that had never shared language, law, or identity. Roads cut through mountains and deserts with relentless precision, carrying soldiers, merchants, and ideas across unimaginable distances. Aqueducts fed vast cities that pulsed with life, while the Forum stood as the center of power, where decisions shaped the lives of millions. Rome was not just vast, it was organized, disciplined, and enduring in a way the world had never seen before. For centuries, Rome did more than conquer, it absorbed. It turned enemies into citizens, territories into provinces, and chaos into order. Its laws became the structure of daily life, its legions enforced stability, and its culture spread so deeply that even those beyond its borders felt its influence. As described in the great histories, its strength was not just in its armies, but in the systems that made those armies sustainable. It felt permanent, inevitable, as though it had discovered the formula for lasting forever. But even the strongest systems carry within them the beginnings of strain. At first, the changes are almost invisible, small adjustments made to maintain balance in something already too large to fully control. A tax increases here, a reform is delayed there. Decisions are made not to strengthen the future, but to preserve the present. And slowly, what once held everything together begins to bend under pressure. The decline of Rome does not begin with invasion. It begins with numbers. The empire had always expanded through conquest, but conquest is expensive, and over time, the costs begin to outweigh the rewards. Armies must be paid, supplied, and moved across enormous distances, and as the campaigns grow longer and less profitable, the treasury begins to thin. To compensate, the empire takes a quiet but devastating step. It reduces the silver content in its coins, stretching its wealth by diluting it. At first, the change is subtle, barely noticeable. But then prices begin to rise. Slowly at first, then rapidly, until the value of money itself becomes uncertain. Markets lose their rhythm. Trust begins to erode. A coin no longer represents what it once did, and the consequences ripple outward. The middle class, once the backbone of Roman stability, begins to disappear, squeezed between rising costs and shrinking value. Wealth concentrates in fewer hands, while ordinary citizens struggle to maintain even the simplest sense of security. In the marketplaces, tension replaces routine. Merchants argue, customers hesitate, and the steady pulse of Roman life begins to falter. As economic stability weakens, political stability follows. Power becomes less about governance and more about survival. Emperors no longer rise through orderly succession, but through force, betrayal, and opportunity. In the span of just a few decades, Rome cycles through ruler after ruler, each one aware that their position is temporary, fragile, and likely to end in violence. Assassinations become expected. Loyalty becomes transactional. The Senate, once the embodiment of Roman authority, remains in form, but not in function. Its debates reduced to performance, its influence little more than an echo of what it once was. While the center grows unstable, the edges of the empire begin to stretch beyond what can be sustained. The borders are vast, too vast for any single system to manage effectively. Legions are spread thin, forced to defend territories that grow harder to control with each passing year. To fill the gaps, Rome turns to outsiders, hiring barbarian mercenaries to reinforce its forces. At first, this solution works. These soldiers are effective, capable, and necessary. But they are not Roman. Their loyalty is not to the empire, but to the payment they receive, to the opportunities they are given. And when the empire begins to weaken, so does that loyalty. At the same time, a quieter transformation is taking place within Roman society itself. As Christianity spreads across the empire, it brings with it a different framework for understanding life and purpose. The focus shifts gradually from civic duty and loyalty to the state toward personal salvation and spiritual identity. This change does not happen suddenly, nor does it affect everyone in the same way. But over time, it alters the cultural foundation of Rome. The shared identity that once bound citizens to the empire begins to fragment, replaced by something more individual, more inward. Whether this shift is a cause of decline or simply a reflection of it is debated, but its presence is undeniable. Then comes the moment that changes everything. In the year 410 AD, something occurs that would have once been unimaginable. Alaric, king of the Visigoths, stands before the gates of Rome, not as an ally, not as a hired force, but as an enemy. And this time, there is no overwhelming defense, no impenetrable resistance. The gates open, the city is entered. For 3 days, Rome is no longer eternal. It is vulnerable, exposed, human. Fires burn through streets that once symbolized power. Citizens flee through alleys that had once been the center of the world. The illusion that Rome cannot be touched dissolves completely. The damage is not just physical, it is psychological. For centuries, Rome had represented permanence in a world defined by instability. Now, that idea is gone. The city still stands, its structure still visible, but something deeper has been broken. The empire continues, technically, for decades after this moment. But the outcome is no longer in question. What follows is not a sudden collapse, but a slow recognition of what has already been lost. By the time Odoacer sits on the throne in 476, the fall has already happened. The ceremony is empty because the meaning has already disappeared. What remains is not power, but memory. The fall of Rome is often imagined as a dramatic event, a single catastrophic moment that brought an empire to its knees. But in truth, it is something far quieter and far more unsettling. Rome does not fall because it is conquered from the outside. It falls because it changes from within, piece by piece, until it no longer resembles what made it strong in the first place. Power does not disappear all at once. It fades gradually, almost imperceptibly, as systems weaken, as values shift, as decisions are made for survival rather than strength. The patterns that led to Rome's decline are not unique. They appear again and again throughout history, in different forms, under different names, but with the same underlying structure. No empire believes it will end. Each one sees itself as permanent, as something that has outgrown the cycle that defined those before it. But permanence is an illusion, and Rome stands as one of the clearest reminders that even the greatest structures are not immune to time, to change, to the quiet forces that erode them from within. And like every empire that came before, and every one that will come after, Rome believed it would last forever, right up until the moment it didn't.